Hi everyone, it's Christian Butzek of Remax Crest, and thank you so much for tuning in to today's video blog. And the topic for today's blog is why you absolutely want to use the services of a realtor for pre-sales. Very important now. And I think this is an area where we see the greatest misunderstanding. I've met a lot of people who think that it's better for them to approach the pre-sales marketing team to buy a condo in a tower project, and they think it's an advantage because that the developer's pre-sales team wants to deal directly with them, and they think, hey, I can save a lot on the commission. And actually both of those are quite false. I think first off is the developer's team wants to deal directly with actual other agents. Let me demonstrate with a story. 2 years ago, I had a very good client and a good friend, and she was in Europe at the time, and she called me about a specific project around Surrey Central. And this is a project by Concord Pacific. And she asked me if I could help her get in to the presentation center to buy one of these units before, all the good ones were gone. And so and she had said, oh, I sent them, 4 or 5 emails, I called them, and I don't get any kind of a response. And I said, let me take care of it. And so I went to work and I started calling them, emailing them, texting them, and I also didn't get that much traction with them. So what I finally did after 2 days is I got my car and I just drove out to the sales center and I presented myself in person to the staff there. And the receptionist was very, very polite, and at that point introduced me to the manager of this sales team. And he walked me through the presentation center, showed me the different show suites, showed the different floor plans, the layouts, and so on. And at that point, I had built a relationship with that sales manager. And of course, he then offered me, after he met with me, he said, okay, Christian, why don't you make an appointment on day one, sort of in the second to third hour, to bring your client in. And I then got back in touch with my client and said, we've got it, we've got a date, a time, you're going in at 10 o'clock on Friday, and you've got to bring in your $20,000 bank draft, or roughly that amount, because you've got to bring that in on day one when you sign the contract. And so I share that with you because it's an example of how pre-sales works, especially in a busy, fast market, which we don't have so much now. We've moved out of that. But in when the market is faster, or the project is priced really well, it'll move fast, units will sell quickly, and you want to be in on day one, or at the very least day 2, to get in there and get one of those units. And so that's what I was able to do for her. And so what I want to do is now review sort of several reasons why it's important to have a buyer's agent for a pre-sale. The first is you basically get to pick from the best units. See, if you get in before they release it to the public 3 or 4 weeks later, when 80% of the units have sold, or even maybe 30 or 40% of the units have sold, it's too late to get the best unit. Those go quickly, right? The corner units, the lower corner units especially, because why would an investor pay an extra $30,000 for a 25th floor when they can get the 4th or 5th floor corner unit for much less price, and there isn't that much of a difference on the rent. So what happens then is our job as a buyer's agent is to get you in early so that you have a chance at one of those best units, okay? Or one of the cheaper units is another way to put it too. The second advantage is we have time to sit down with you and qualify you. See, the reason why the developer sales team doesn't want to deal directly with the public that's walking in off the street is they don't know your financial situation. They don't know if you're qualified for a mortgage, whether you've just changed jobs and that disqualifies you from a mortgage. They want clients to be brought to their center that are ready for a purchase, right? It's going to make their job easier. And so they're going to outsource that work to the buyer's agent. They don't want to deal with that on their side. It takes too much time, way too much energy. You can imagine a lot of buyer's agents, we'll be taking our client to 5 or 10 presentation centers. We might have built up a working relationship over the last 6 months to understand the market, to understand how you purchase a home, help someone feel just comfortable emotionally with a purchase. Because a lot of people get nervous when they're making a purchase like this. And the developer doesn't have 3 months or 6 months to build that relationship up and help someone understand what's available in the market. So they want qualified clients to come in, and they're going to work with realtors who bring those qualified clients. Third is the process. A buyer's agent can help you understand the pre-sales process. Probably the most important part of the pre-sales process is the deposits. And when you go in and sign for that very first contract, you're going to bring in a deposit on that very day. Often it'll be $20,000 or so. And then you will be responsible for additional deposits along the way, after 7 days, after 6 months, and even after 12 months. And so you can't miss any of those payments, because if you did miss one, the developer has the legal right, if it says in the contract, to actually keep your money and take the unit back from you. So you have to really, really know the process. And then that brings us to the next point. You have to know the contract and the disclosure statement. That disclosure statement is very important because it's going to outline some key specifics of what you are getting, what you're buying. Remember, in pre-sales, you're buying something that doesn't exist, right? It exists. It's on some architect's drawing. There may be a model in the presentation center, but what you're buying hasn't been built. And in that disclosure statement, you will have certain bits of information, like for example, the square footage, what kind of appliances they will be building. And they have certain terms in there that allow them to build 3% above or below the advertised square footage in that disclosure statement. And now it depends. They're not always going to be the same. It might be a little more, it might be a little bit less. But it's very important to understand that document. And I think your agent will be able to do that with you. And you have someone that you can ask questions of as well. And so those are several key points. Again, reviewing them. One, you get to pick from the best units early in the process. Second, you've been able to be qualified. Your buyer's agent has helped you. It'll make it smoother and easier for you to get into the sales center. Third is just having a smooth process lay ahead of you, because your agent may be holding your hand through it. And fourth is understanding the documentation, things like the contract, the disclosure statement, and anything else that may come up. So those are several key reasons I really think, and I really encourage you when you're looking at a pre-sale, to get someone to help you with that process. Remember, for the developer, they are under timelines and deadlines too. They want to move on. And often, if they're getting financing, and every developer is different, but in most cases, they'll probably getting financing from a lending institution to build this project. And that lending institution has said to them, look, if you want to get to for us to lend you this much, you have to sell 50% of the project, or you have to sell 75% of the project. So they want to get these units sold as soon as possible too, right? And so they're going to work with buyer's agents that can help them reach their goal. And they just see it as a cost of doing business. So they're very happy to pay the commission that they're paying. And so I think that's a key point to realize. And I hope that makes sense to you. If you have any other questions, feel free to get in touch. You can, or just leave a few comments below. Thanks very much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.